I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people that say, oh, okay, we know Canada and British Columbia on the West Coast, right? And then Prince George, where is Prince George? Well, we have a big city in British Columbia. Is called Vancouver. We are 500 miles north, or for our European friends, 800 kilometers from Vancouver. Puts us in the center of British Columbia, north-south, east to west. Big province, beautiful, lots of friends, black bears, grizzly bears, caribou, deer, foxes, wolves. We call them our friends, and we call it paradise. Today we got an interesting podcast. The fellow's name is John Fairclough, and I believe I got his name correctly. He is an entrepreneur extraordinaire, has gone through all the ups and downs. And he will tell us, I believe, grew up in around the Chicago area. Starting from nothing, slept for a period in his car. It reminds me of myself, actually, in a way, and then became an extraordinary entrepreneur, but also an author. And he has an interesting story for all those people that say, oh, I like to be an entrepreneur, and what does it take? Well, let's ask John and share our discussion between him and me about entrepreneurship and all the things relating to it. I'm also an author as well. And so, John, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with, give us a background of your life, where you're from originally, your studies, and then obviously going into entrepreneurship, starting from the bottom up, including about sleeping in the back of your car, and I can relate to all of those kind of things, and then going forward, and obviously then kind of getting settled down into getting into business, being successful, and becoming an entrepreneur. So start from the beginning.
Okay, great. Well, so I was born in Chicago and bounced around a lot within Chicago. My mom had a tough time raising us. My dad wasn't around, so it was kind of tough on her, and she had 4 kids. And so we moved a lot. She couldn't pay the rent. So we bounced around, which meant I went to different schools and things like that. So there's a lot of really good lessons that I learned in familiarizing myself with my environment, right? Who are the trouble kids? What did I need to do? What did I need to avoid and things? And so even though that was a little tumultuous, it was really good for me. And then so later on, I went to high school, 3 different high schools, same kind of story. And then afterwards, I was really supposed to be something in school. I was double promoted, a very fast mind and things, but I just really couldn't get myself into a really good pattern. I moved to Florida to live with my cousin, and I wanted to start my life, and that didn't work out. He was 4.5 years older than me. It really did, or he's 5.5 years older than me. Really didn't work out for me. Love him, but I had to get into my lane, and I wasn't in my lane.
How old were you then when you moved to Florida, John?
I was 18.
You're still very young, right?
Very young, yeah. I was 18, and so I went out there, lived with him for a few months, came back, rip-roaring, ready to go. Like, I was like, hey, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like, I had everything situated. And when I came back, I had lived with a family member, and I just wanted to come back, and they wouldn't let me go back to their home. And they had a bunch of things that they were going through, and so I didn't have a place. So now here I came back, finally having a sense of direction, right? So it was I could have done anything, right? Like I said, I was a little boy and I was scoring off the charts for math and English, and I just really could have been something academically, but I just didn't have that kind of support system. I lived with this aunt and this uncle, and I kind of bounced around. I lived with a friend's grandparents, slept on their floor for a few months. So I had all of these different things, but never any stability. And so when I came back from Florida, I had it on my mind that, okay, now I'm going to utilize this time. I'm going to direct myself, and I'm going to go. And then when I couldn't stay there, it was like all that got taken away from me again. So I did some things I shouldn't have done to get some money, and I got that money. I bought a car, and that became my home. I had a membership at a gym. That's where I would shower, do all of that. And so for 6 months, I kind of went through that piece. I enrolled in school, so I had a place to live, not for my future. So I had a place to live, and then kind of organize and say, hey, I'm never going to be dependent on someone else again. And that's how it all began.
And so now you starting to approach 18, 19, 20. So you went back to school. Did you finish your high school initially, or?
Yes, I finished high school.
Good. That was good. And then you came back, and your siblings, you had three other siblings that still.
They all live with different. They all live with different people. So we got separated. Yeah. My mom stopped raising us at 11. I was around 11, and I had a sister that was a year older, a brother that was a year younger, and then a younger sister that was much younger. And so we got separated, but we still came together. There were still family parties and things, and
right.
It was a little bit of an adjustment. And so there's like this connection that I have with my brother and my sisters, that it's like no matter what, I'm on their side. It doesn't matter if we're fighting, if I don't talk to them for a year, whatever they need, I'm there for, and I feel the same from them. And a lot of it, I think, was born in those difficult, chaotic times. And so when I came back, went to school for the year, I couldn't afford to eat. So I ran out of the meal plan. So for the last couple of months of the school term, I was going in, I was basically taking food that wasn't mine and eating. So I had to go get a job. So I went to work, and I started working for different uncles, and I finally landed on an uncle that I really admire. He's just a really strong man. He always made me feel safe. And maybe it's because of how he's physically very tough, and he's wonderful inside. He's a fantastic family man. And so there was just something really endearing about him to me. And so I went to work with him. And my first year, I worked with him. I was doing sales, and he had a painting business. So I didn't make much money, $13,000, working my tail off for a year. And then my second year, we doubled the size of his company. I picked up a couple of accounts that were really good, and we were off to the races. A few years later, I was 23. He and I got into a little bit of a disagreement, and he says that I quit. I say he fired me, but either way, I was on my own. 23, no money, getting started, and made it happen. By the time I was 24, I had 81 guys going in the field, and I was off to the races.
So what were you doing then when you were 24? Was it still involved in, I believe you said your uncle had a painting business?
Sure. Mine was more painting, maintenance, and remodeling. And so basically, I just followed the revenue. The people I was doing work for, whatever kind of work they had, I was trying to capture it.
So that was the niche. So you were kind of a hands-on, can do everything kind of and get the job done individual, that then you attracted clients, because those people even now still are difficult to find. And then likely you build your business by being recommended by others. And then from there on in, it became a question of developing a business around it, which means that I always say to people that right-sizing the business is critical, because you can't be too small, and you can't be too big either, too fast, because then all kinds of other problems happen, and it may affect quality, and subsequently, in your business in particular, we are recommending your work to others. That's the engine that makes your business grow. So it became delicate in terms of being able to manage that, because 80 people is 80 payrolls in some form or fashion. I don't commission whatever you had to develop a structure about it that made it unique to you in your business.
Right. Well, Right. At the center of growth stories for businesses, to me, should sit client satisfaction. That everything needs to revolve around that. And if we build around that, it's
If it is service or is it a product or is it else, it all is based on the buyer, the client.
Right. Exactly. And that distinction is what I used. So my business is primarily, I have two businesses that are in the facility space, and both of them service primarily retailers and restaurants, and any other multi-location businesses that are highly interactive with customers. And it's their special needs that I built the company around. So my service offerings aren't like, hey, I'm a plumber, let me go see who I could do plumbing work for. It's I'm a facility director's service provider. What do they need? And having that different approach, building the business around a client type, really gave me a lot of advantages, because I'm looking to build a great relationship with the person that hires me, and I want to work for these companies that have that have a very strong treasury. I'm not looking to work with someone and chase all these different people for money. I'd rather have one client that I'm doing a lot of work for, and so that's what I built.
So you say facility specialist service provider. I've not heard that name before. Explain it to us. I think I know what it is, but explain it to the people where you found the niche. That could be companies that have a facility or several facilities, and they like somebody that deals with issues or problems, but maybe even goes further than that, so you become a key component to their potentially management team in terms of not only keeping the facility in place, but also keep it doing things that you could be assisting, so you become an ongoing support system to them.
Right. So if we think about a retailer, a national or international retailer, that's primarily who we target, right? And so if you go to a local mall, the stores that are in that mall are my clients. So I work with over 100 retailers across the U.S. and Canada, and so our clients are some of the most recognizable names and brands in the world. And these companies have us handle any of their facility issues. That arise. So if something breaks, we fix it, right? So any construction repair in the location, their door doesn't work, or their bathroom, their toilet isn't functioning. We go out and handle those things on an emergency basis, and we handle about 1,000 job sites a day. So we're on about 1,000 projects a day across the U.S. and Canada, Guam, and Puerto Rico, and so some of our projects are like, we just painted 300 stores, right? The entire fleet, we went in and we painted all of them. And so we have relationships with contractors all over the U.S., Canada, Guam, and Puerto Rico, right? We're all over there. And then we have our own team positioned in different parts of the country and to support them. And so we basically provide any construction service to retailers in those areas.
So when you were 18 and you slept in the backseat of that car, did you have any idea at all that this may become your future? Or was the key probably the uncle that you admired and you worked with for a period of time, and you quit or you got fired, what is in dispute still? No, I'm just joking about that. But you mentioned that it was, so it is what I see, hard experience, getting the job done. For me, my foundation is, I'm likely a little bit older than you are. I'm 85 years young, I call it, and was born in northeastern Holland in 1940 during the war years. Things were tough, saw far too much that we should not have seen, had an adverse effect on my family, and even still today, I'm still dealing with the issues relating to PTSD, the inner child, and all the tough times. Started academically, I was not a success story, failed grade 3, failed grade 7 3 times. They said, what are we going to do with this guy? My parents were beautiful people, and some people said to them, send them to the mentally challenged school. They said, no, we're not going to do that. And so, and the teachers would say, well, John, will not amount to much, but he probably will become a good laborer someplace. But otherwise, he just not have the brains and all the other kind of people are hard, and especially education those days, things were somewhat different. Friends can be hard to deal with, and especially in my case where I had failed, the friends that I had that went on to college and university, kind of looked down on me because I became a laborer after failing grade 7 the third time, 12 and a half years old. I became a laborer, and my dad had a friend that had a furniture factory, sent me down there to become a furniture maker. And I loved that. And then the other part I should add to the story on my background is that we were liberated by the Canadian Army April the 12th, 1945. It made such an impression on me that I always knew I would go to the land of my heroes once I grew up, Canada. And I did uniquely. And some of it fits into your story. I was 24 years old when I left Holland with nothing. Couldn't speak English, didn't know a soul, couldn't speak the language, but I liked lumber. And so I wanted to go to British Columbia because that's where all the trees are. And then I wanted to build my own lumber mill, starting with nothing. And so I got on, when I landed in Montreal, took the train across Canada, 4 days, 5 nights. My God, that is a long way. Anyway, so when I came to Vancouver, I got off the train, went to the immigration department. I didn't speak English. Fortunately, there was a German fella, and I could speak some German. And I told him I want to build a lumber mill. And he said, go to Prince George. That's where they're building all the mills. That's where all the timber is. That's where I am still today. 60 years later, I can still look here. My apartment here in our studio is in downtown Prince George. I can still see where the Greyhound station was. I had a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and so that's how I came off the bus. Didn't know a soul, didn't have a job, couldn't speak the language. And I counted my money at least 3 times. I had $25.47. But what I did have is attitude. I've always been an optimist. I lived in my own world a lot of ways, but I always was optimistic, and I always believed that I was just as smart as any of the other people. And then the other part was passion, that whatever I did, and I still do today, I have, whatever I do, what I like, I give it 125%. And the other one was work ethic. I work harder than anybody, even at 85, nearly 85, it's going to be in November. And I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I always make my bed, and I always think I'm late. And so since that time, yes, I did get a sawmill and a lumber mill. And it's not about hurrah, hurrah, how successful John is. That's not the purpose of this, but illustrating it. I probably have 10 different companies. I'm also an author, a late starter. I wrote 5 books. And the last one that I wrote, I just want to share with you, is this one, $1 billion communication skills. It's all becoming a good communicator. That's the story. And it goes also about, I released it in July 31st. It's a bestseller on Amazon, very, very popular. And the first book that I wrote, and in between I wrote through other ones, is one. Writing books, as you know, because you did, is very, very challenging. And a lot of people said to me, oh, yeah, it's such an interesting life, you should write a book. And I tried for 20 years, stop, start, until I was virtually in my 70s. And then I said, if I don't start it now, it will not happen. And I was already in my mid-70s. And so I started writing this book, Against All Odds, not about how successful John is, just to the contrary, all the challenges along the way. It took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2.5 years to write it, and very successful actually. And so, and in between I wrote a number of other books. The other one I just want to show to you is that everything is about fitness, health, mentally, diet, gym. So this is also a book that I wrote, Living Young, Dying Old. It's a picture of me, actually. I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America and qualified in 1997, 98 for the I became the second placed bodybuilder and physique in British Columbia, and that qualified me for the Nationals and the Arnolds. And now again, I'm training to go to the Arnolds next year. And but it's all about fitness and health. And that's I just want to kind of share that with you, because I've been there to the place where I had no place to sleep. I've been there when everybody said, you will not amount to much. And being on my own from 24 forward, I say everything is possible.
Right. Well, that's a lot about what my book's about. And you mentioned earlier about kind of being in your own world and things like that. Like, if I listened to what everybody else said, I wouldn't have really accomplished much. And so my mission really is to be myself. That was the first title of my book.
Have you got it there, John? Have you got your book there? Can you? It's
going to be released. It's going to be released. They're shooting for Q4, but they keep telling me Q1, but I keep pushing for Q4 of this year.
Okay.
And the original title was "Be You," like be yourself.
Yeah.
The best advice I ever gave myself. And it really is kind of a play on that. I really had to take control of my life and things like that. But that didn't pass the sniff test, and nobody got the inside joke but me. So, but the book title is "Embrace for Impact," and there's 3 sections to it. But my real call there is to invite people to be themselves and to create their own definition of a good person. Like my definition of a good man, I have that, and as many decisions, important decisions as I can make that align with that, I'm going to reduce a lot of anxiety, stress, and other things, and be able to stand on my own, and really like feel good about my decisions, make decisions I can be proud of. And so that's one part of it is that manifesto. Another part of it is getting people to see things a little bit differently, like in addition to what they already know. So I give some points that are a little bit more, they're more paradoxical, like your right answers are different than mine. So many times an entrepreneur writes a book and says, here's the playbook that you need to follow. But that doesn't necessarily, work well with the strengths and weaknesses of the player. And so instead of starting with why, we start with who, right? Let's look and build a playbook around the person. And then the third section of the book is around activating that person. That definition of a good man for me, I want to activate that guy. And then that guy's going to fall off track, so he needs to recover at times. So I built this toolkit that goes with the manifesto and that open-minded thinking, and I believe it's going to help a lot of people feel more confident in being themselves.
Yeah, as you said, to be different and be yourself, be a good man, good woman, or and so the other part about books that I do is that if they say, what is your writing style? I'm a storyteller. That's who I am. And so that works for me, and I do that through all the books that I write. It's a story. And so that part is, but as you already indicated, it's not easy, and the titles are critically important as well. And so, but I did not fully realize all the things that were initially involved. What does it look like? how many pages, how should be the font, should there be pictures, should there not be pictures, and on and on and on and on. And then getting it published. I was in the position where I could do all my own. I didn't rely on somebody else to do the publishing. We did it ourselves. And so it's a bit of a slow process initially, but if the story is there and the story is right and it gives inspiration to others, then I'm convinced that my books, as you are, I'm sure with yours, that it will be inspiration for others. And, and that's why it is so important for me to have people like yourself sharing with us your book, but motivated you not only to get from the back of the car to go through a period in your early life, in particular from the time you were 10 or 11, of being somewhat rejected and looking for a home, even mentally, physically, a home of some sort where you're welcomed, and then finding that that's so difficult to find until you found it in your car, as that more or less is your home. And for me, something the same happened when I was 24. No place to stay here, couldn't speak the language, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job, and slept in an old cabin with nothing other than my suitcase underneath my raincoat. But I still believed in me, and I still believed, and I was sleeping at the sawmill side. I wanted to become a cleanup man, but I knew at some point I would own a sawmill. Today I own the property actually that particular, just coincidental, and much else, but the most important part for me was, as I believe it was for you, is the difficult times became the foundation of me that still is the foundation today and makes me successful in the businesses that I do and the books that I write and the podcast that I do as well. It's a story about me. I'm not trying to be something the other. I'm not lecturing to others. I'm simply sharing with them a story, and at the same time, in a lot of cases, have guests that have a story that becomes an inspiration for others. And right. The podcasting and social media in particular, but podcasting in particular, which still is on the foundation of going globally, is the new media of the future. And as we are sitting here, have our discussion, John, about you and your history, we have people from all over the world watching us. It could well be millions. And I'm not, again, bragging about this, but saying that we are approaching 1 million subscribers on YouTube. That means the other platforms, that's where the future is. And I believe that people are looking for genuine conversations between individuals like you and myself. And even in our circumstances, that we will release this podcast within 2 hours, 3 hours maybe, and it will be shared around the world as we presented it. And I believe, and that's what makes it unique, and that's why people like it more so than even all the news media, which are declining, and people that are watching it, too many commercials, too political in a lot of cases around the world, and looking for genuine conversations. That's what I do in my books, that's what I do in my podcast, that's who I am, and that's who you are, and that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, it's that internal battle that people face, especially the ones that aren't talked about. Right, like an entrepreneur oftentimes trades his family for his business and sacrifices. And if you were to really examine it, it runs counter to what they think, like what they believe is right. But they never kind of call out that hypocrisy in themselves. We don't like the word hypocrite. We don't want to be called a hypocrite. That's like the taboo thing to be. Yet so many entrepreneurs struggle because they're so afraid that they're not enough, right? If I only had a little more information, if I only had this or only had that, and there's this ripple effect. And so I like to encourage people just to hear the battles that people have gone through, not from my playbook. Like this is what I was facing, and this is what I did, and somehow at the end of all of those difficult times, you really met who you really are, right? Like I met this resilient guy named John through my difficult times, and if I could have a normal upbringing or a traditional upbringing, and then not have that resilience, I would take the difficult upbringing. I had a friend that stole from me, right? He stole quite a bit of money and all of that. And now I certainly didn't like that he did that. But again, I met John through that difficult time, right? Who am I? What is my definition of a good man? And I'm going to make decisions that align with that guy and let everybody say what they want to say. And if they ever, well, you should have this and you should have that, and I should be me. Just because you don't have the level of forgiveness that I do, I should use the level of forgiveness that I have. And I'm certainly not saying that you should utilize my level. If you don't have that ability, then you shouldn't use that ability, right? And because you can't, and you're not going to be comfortable. I was comfortable forgiving this guy of something that, you just wouldn't forgive ordinarily. But that's just part of me being me. And my objective, it's so simple, is to smile on the inside, right? I just want to smile, like to John from John, with lots of love. I want to do that, and I hope that my book helps people see that they are enough, that they can review the tape of their life, and if they watched it a little bit differently, they'd pick up even more lessons. Like life has taught them a lot or shown them a lot, and they've learned a bunch from it. Go rewind the tape, run it again, and see what you missed. And there's so many opportunities to have great insights and build that confidence, right? Make decisions that you're confident in. Build something you can be proud of, and let things fall where they may.
I like that, John. So in a lot of similarities with me, as I showed you earlier on 2547, is that for me the foundation has been attitude, passion, work ethic, but will follow with success. For people, and you touched on that as well, entrepreneurship. A lot of people say to me, "Oh, you got so much, and you must have been lucky," and all the other kind of things. You say, no, the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's how it works. And then the other part is that, contrary to what people may think, that if you're an entrepreneur and successful, then people think simply that you spend all your time planning on holidays and bringing money to the bank. I said, no, it takes a lot of effort. It can be very, very hard. It was on me. I'm sure it was on you. On families, it's challenging and going this direction of entrepreneurship. But it can also be very rewarding. From the question in my mind was always, it took me a long time to figure out, who am I? And so it took a long time. It would take another podcast to go through all of those issues, but it did for me as well. But I'm, even now at mid-80s, I'm at peace with who I am. I like giving back first and foremost. Making money to me is not a priority in life, but I love where I live in Canada. We are so fortunate. I grew up during the war years. We are so lucky. You are in the United States and I'm in Canada. North America is so lucky. I fly a lot, and then I always sit and do a lot of business in the United States. I always sit by the window and I look outside and see paradise. We are so lucky. And then, I've seen the opposite. I've lived the opposite. And so if you now look around the world in Eastern Europe and thinking about the Ukraine, the Middle East, and then thinking about governments like Russia, China, Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea, I can go on and on and on. We're still lucky and fortunate, although we have challenges from time to time in the political systems, both in Canada, United States, or wherever, that the three countries together, Canada, the United States, and Mexico, can form a unit that complement each other and give leadership to the world as we have in the past. It was the Allied forces when I was born in 1940 and then in 1944 that landed the United States, Canada, and the UK, landed in Normandy and freed Europe, and then started the Marshall Plan in 1947, stimulated by the Americans really, but with the cooperation of others, of rebuilding Europe after the war years. And so a democratic rule is a treasure in the world. And all the opposite ones that I already indicated are a challenge. And I believe that in the United States, the Constitution is the foundation, starting with we, the people. And that's the most important, that's the foundation. And that's why I consider myself being born during difficult times, gone through the challenges as you have, that I'm very, very fortunate being where I am today.
That's beautiful.
So, John, it was an amazing podcast. We started off a little bit initially. It took a little bit while to get connected, but I really enjoyed having this podcast with you. For all the people watching us, give us your book title once more so that they can look for it once it comes out. And I should also stay in touch with you, possibly do another podcast once it comes out to, again, show that with other people.
Great. So the book is Embrace for Impact. So excited about that coming out, hopefully before the end of the year. But we'll put some notice out there. I have a YouTube channel, The John Fairclough. And so people can subscribe there and learn more about what's going on. And our website is launching soon, which is johnfairclough.com. And I'd appreciate that. That's fantastic. I'd love to come on again after the book comes out.
Stay in touch with Scott, and we'll make sure we do that. And then for all the people watching us from around the world and hearing John's story and then my own, and giving you all around the world inspiration to challenges along the way, but always look forward. Attitude, passion, work ethic, to me, is the foundation. Subscribe to our podcast if you like to see more of this that we are doing. Same for John, as well as this John, and then like it, share it with others, and make comments. And again, John, it was amazing, a privilege to have a podcast with you. Let's make sure we stay in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, John. Take care.